In the cybersecurity field today, writing books, writing blogs, and doing self-help videos for cybersecurity subjects has become pretty popular, especially in the COVID era while, we're all stuck at home. This week's episode is going to be talking to Phil Wylie and Kim Crawley, the authors of the new popular selling book, The Pentester Blueprint. In this episode, we're going to talk to them exactly about what it means to write a book, what actually you need to have in order to write a book, rather it be passion or actually, have time management down to a key. And then also, talk to them about what it was like to write a book between the bumps and bruises and the high points of writing a book. So if writing a book is something you're interested in, or you want to know more about Phil Wylie or Kim Crawley, please sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Offensive Security Interviews. Today we have on the show Kim and Phil. They are the new authors of the awesome new popular title, The Pentester Blueprint. Thanks, Kim and Phil, for being on the show.
Thank you.
To go ahead and get started with the questions is, in each one of you chime in as you need to. I don't want to have to call up names. Is, what is your background in cyber and how it was geared towards writing this book?
Phil, do you want to start?
Yeah, actually, where this book came about was I gave a conference talk on becoming a pen tester, which evolved from my lecture from the first day of class each semester. And a couple of the professors asked me to come speak to their class. I started teaching like in January 2018. And so by November of 2018, I was given this talk at B-Sides DFW for the first time. And since then, presented several other conferences. And due to being in the Tribe of Hackers Red Team book, Jim Manatel from Wylie Publishing reached out to me and asked me if I was interested in writing a book. And I had planned on writing a book on this topic. And so that worked out well. So I got started in the book, and I'm pretty straight and to the point. And I just wasn't quite getting close to that 200 pages. So I was either going to go self-publish, not do the book, or find someone to help me write the book. So luckily, Kim and I were familiar with each other from Twitter. I'd asked her some opinions before on writing and blogging, good platforms for that. So we'd, had already been acquainted with each other. So I was thinking, and then all of a sudden I thought, why did I think of Kim? Kim would be awesome because Kim is technical as well as a writer, so she'd be perfect for the book. So one of the big lessons I learned from this is to learn to ask other people for help. It's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of times it makes life a lot easier. And by bringing her on to help write the book, she made it a lot better book than what it would have been.
And I was really honored to be brought on board. And that I said yes immediately when I was asked. And it was an absolutely great experience. Phil was really great to work with. He wrote a lot of excellent content. He's the heart and soul of the book because it's based on his Pentester Blueprint talks that he gives quite frequently at security events. And my job was just to fill in the gaps. So I have a very general, comprehensive, broad kind of view of cybersecurity as a whole. So a lot of the content about how does pen testing fit in with other cybersecurity roles and with the entire industry was really my addition to the book. That and a lot of interviews. I love interviewing people. So there's a lot of great knowledge derived from experience throughout the book, not just Phil's professional experience, but also the professional experiences of a lot of other pen testers. A lot of the most well-known pen testers, their ideas are in this book somewhere or another. Like we had like Chris Quebeca, for instance. I had like a lot, some of the people I interviewed actually developed some popular tools that have been implemented into Cali. So it was a great honor to glean their insight.
Yeah, even including Simon Bennett, one of the writers and maintainers of OWASP Zap.
Oh wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. And Philip, Phil, I don't know if I don't know if you were in the channel before we started recording, but Kim and I were talking, and like the book itself is amazing. Like even as someone who is, you know, a seasoned pen tester, and Kim, I don't know if you know a little background about myself, but Phil and I have actually talked at various security conferences back to back because I give a talk that's a little bit like what Phil does with his Pentester Blueprint one. Mine is called the Student Roadmap to Becoming a Penetration Tester. And so Phil and I have really been able to, you know, forge a bond from that. And yeah, I'm going on a tangent and I got long-winded and forgot what I was trying to get at now.
Yeah, we have a lot. We have a lot in common because John is also a college professor as well.
Yeah, and come from non-technical backgrounds too, like before getting into pen testing. So yeah, there's a lot of similarities. So, and speaking of background, so you know the book itself, I love it. I read it. And that's what I was getting at is Phil, as I actually read the book in a day. It's a really good read. It's a really fast read, and which is good because you can read it fast but still comprehend the material. And I think there's something in there for everyone. It even has a seasoned pen tester, which that's what I was getting at was, you know, being a seasoned pen tester. There was even things in the book that I picked up where I was like, this is groundbreaking. Like, why wasn't this presented before in this format? I really see this book as like being the trendsetter for more books to come, where you and Kim, or you two will be, you know, the founders essentially of like creating these roadmaps for people trying to get into pen testing, because it's not an easy field to get into, right? And a lot of individuals think that, oh, you have to have this strong technical background to get into pen testing. And so the next question to follow up with that is, what about your background, rather it be technical or not technical, helped you write this book in a sense of where, you know, between persevering through, you know, writer block to actually coming up with the material, collaborating between, you know, two different people, and also having to work with through proxy through an author?
I found that, I mean, that's a really complicated question. I found that working with Phil was, honestly, it was a cakewalk. He's such a nice guy. If he has a big ego, I've seen no sign of him having a big ego, and yet he's accomplished so much in the industry so far. There's not, without naming names, there's not like a whole lot of people in this industry who are as well known as Phil is, and yet are so humble and approachable. So it was really great working with him, and I had a lot of ideas that I added to the book, and he was completely receptive about them. I think the parts of the book where my own ideas are really more of the focus are the chapter that is kind of like a crash course of like cybersecurity 101, because it's very important for anyone getting into any cybersecurity role to understand all the other parts. If you're a pen tester or a red teamer, you have to know how the vulnerabilities that you discover are going to be implemented by the blue team. And there's a lot of basics that everyone in this industry should know, regardless of which role you're in, which is like the CIA triad, the different types of access control, the various different types of security control, the various different types of malware. Newbies especially find the different types of malware to be very confusing. So that really had a lot of my own ideas, and the the chapter where readers are supposed to make a skills inventory. So it doesn't matter what your professional background is, even if you weren't working with computers, like you weren't working in IT or computer science or development in any way, there are still transferable skills into a pen testing career. And I used my imagination and also my pragmatic experience. Like, I think one of the examples was a grocery clerk, and one of them was an HVAC technician, and one of them was a guy who sells his music on Bandcamp. So it doesn't, the vast majority of jobs, even if they're not computer technical, there are some transferable skills into pen testing, like customer service, that sort of thing.
I am curious, and I'm sure the listeners will be too. What is a transferable skill from being a grocery clerk to becoming a pen tester?
Yeah, I wrote about it in the book. First of all, there's a back of house. There's a back of house where the grocery store gets truckloads of inventory. And it's possible that there could be a party with a truck trying to get into the loading bays in the back who isn't authorized to be there. So they pretend to be delivering dairy products, but they're really there so they can break into the store and do a burglary overnight. So, and then there's helping customers. Because when you're a pen tester, you will actually be speaking to not only people in the IT department, but people who are just business people who are just like company executives and stuff like that. You are providing customer service to them in a certain sense. You're having to figure out what they need, and you make sure that there's a contract. If you're a third party pen tester, especially, there has to be a comprehensive contract about the scope of the pen test and everything like that. And there's a little bit of customer service involved in that because you're identifying their needs and trying to make it happen. So if you think with flexibility, the vast majority of jobs have some skills that can be transferred into a pen testing career.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I love your take on it, how like you becoming a store clerk makes you very situational, aware of your situations. And to kind of like pivot off of that, of like different experiences. And this is a question for you, Phil, and I'm going to kind of reveal a little bit about myself. That's going to even make you realize like how even more symmetrical our experiences are is, Phil, you used to be a power lifter, bodybuilder, and you used to be like really, really competitive, one of the greats. Back in my running and gunning days when I was in the Navy, I actually was a competitive Olympic lifter.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And there's a lot of skill sets that I can even think from that have helped my pen testing career and even just writing a book. So I'd be interested to hear your take on like your background outside of pen testing and things that you learned as like a power lifter or something, and how that skill set is transferred into your career as a pen tester, as a leader, as someone who cultivates community, and especially as an author.
Yeah, actually from powerlifting, because I started like in 1980 when I was like 15 years old. I started working out. By my senior year, I started competing powerlifting. But one of the things it taught me, I was, had a very competitive nature, which, I've kind of learned to keep that in check to help myself. But one of the things I've learned from my experience was being goal oriented. So you set a number to something, I'm going to work my hardest to get good numbers. When I was consulting, our bonuses were based on billable hours. So I did what I could to be billable. And so I'm really goal oriented. So I'm constantly trying to do things to improve myself, to help others. So that's really one of the things I would say, just being goal oriented, that's really helped write a book and do a lot of other things that I'm doing. And then like coaching people, back in my powerlifting days, and then that's kind of transferred over to mentoring people and leading people.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think something else too from that is that, you know, with powerlifting, the leadership skills are there, like you said, where you're having to mentor others because, you know, individuals go to the gym to you know, get fit, you know, better their health, things like that. And when they see that individual, you know, in the gym, every time they go to the gym and they see that person, like, you know, grinding it out, getting it, and whatever the term is that they want to put on it, you know, it shows consistency and tenacity, right? And I think those are two really big attributes that you need to be a pen tester, because it's one of those things where you have to be, you know, curious, and you just have to like persevere and rinse, lather, repeat, and do the same thing over and over again to build that skill set.
Yeah, definitely. You know, when you start out, you're not going to be at your peak or your strongest, so you kind of learn what years of work can end up, how it will reward you in the end. So that kind of teaches you as well, and in security. So someone is wanting to get into security or pen testing, you just got to realize that all the years that you build up, spend time learning, is going to help you be a really good professional in the end. So all that kind of compounds.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, man, I can't tell you how many of my mentees I use references from my Olympic lifting days, where I'm like, you don't, to get into cyber, you don't just pick up the OSCP, or you don't pick up these advanced tactics. You learn the basics, and I love that about the book that you two wrote, is that it really dives into the fundamental pillars of, you know, access control, different types of hackers, different types of malware, without even showing like command lines. It develops that methodology. So it's like really like literally like, this is the holistic, organic, natural approach, rather than just jumping into the deep end of the ocean. You're walking into the ocean. And you know, I use references like that too, like with it's like, you don't just pick up the 100-pound dumbbells, you work your way to the 100-pound dumbbells. So yeah, so awesome. So you know, writing a book, and it is awesome. Well, it has its ups and its downs, but the end goal is you're an author. That's an awesome title to have, right? It's really, you know, it's in my opinion, it's like kind of like starstruck. And when you're writing the book, you always think like, oh yeah, we're going to be an author. This is awesome. So this is a two-part question, and I want to lead in with the better part first. Is knowing that you're going to be an author, what is the funnest part from signing your contract on initial writing day to the book hitting, you know, the digital shelves?
Who wants to start?
I would guess seeing the reaction and this helping people, that's the biggest part, because that was the whole goal and intent of this book, is to help people, and to see this helping people, just like the feedback you said that this could help experienced pen testers. I saw someone had left a review on Amazon where they were an experienced pen tester, but they learned things from the book. So that, for me, the whole goal was to help people, and that's what it's doing. And to accomplish that too was probably, you know, right up there with that.
I loved the challenge of writing the book. Like, basically, if you think about it, it's like a jigsaw puzzle that Phil put together, you know, more than half of the pieces, and then my job was to find a way to build around it in a way that complemented what he had there. So I really enjoyed that challenge. I don't get to co-write things very often. My background is like writing blog content for big tech companies like AT&T and whatnot. So I just really loved the challenge of taking Phil's ideas and adding to them. And yeah, I got to say that seeing the book come out and seeing the positive feedback has also been really satisfying, because just like Phil, I don't write to just like throw those words into a void. You hope that your words have an impact on people.
I like that. Hopefully you're shooting out the words there, and hopefully they go into the void. They actually hit something and it makes that positive impact. I like that. You know, just curious, because, and this is coming from, someone else who's an author. My book came out today as we're recording this, and
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And my copy is on its way too.
What? I'm seeing people already post their copies, and I'm like, I don't have a copy yet. What?
Same thing happened to us. The exact same thing happened to us.
Yeah.
So with that being said, one of the things that, people have asked me, they're saying, oh, well, are you excited about like seeing all the things that people are going to say about it? Like, people are really going to love it, all this and that and the other. I'm saying, yeah. And of course, like, having the highlights of your book by other people is awesome. But, to be honest, one of the things I'm looking forward to with my book, and I'd love to have your take on it, is the constructive criticism where you're not getting that 5 stars, you're getting the 4 stars or the 3 stars, and you're getting that critique for improvement. Have you experienced that yet with the Pentester Blueprint?
Have you gotten any constructive feedback, Phil?
Yes, actually, the only place I heard anything that wasn't positive or negative, there's been like, I think 6 ratings left on Amazon, and 2 people did reviews, which were positive, but someone sent me a direct message on Instagram, and they were a seasoned pen tester, so I think they expected it to be more technical. And, the goal of this was to teach someone how to become a pen tester. And, you said a seasoned pen tester such as yourself, it's helped, and some others it has, but I guess they were expecting to be more technical, which I can't see a lot that I would improve from that, because I think the book reaches its goal. Maybe there's things we missed that could have been added, but I don't think that was it.
Interesting. Yeah, that's I don't know. I'm thinking about it and trying to recollect. I wish I had the book. It's on my bookshelf in the other room. I wish I had it in front of me, because then I could reference it. I don't know, honestly. I mean, I get it. It's constructive criticism or constructive feedback. However, it's that book is not, like you said, Phil, it doesn't, when I see that book and I open it up, and within the first few chapters, I understand, like, hey, this is not going to be a technical book that's going to teach me to be a pen tester or ethical hacker or anything. This is really going to lay down the foundation that I need to set up for myself in order to become, a pen tester in X amount of years, right? You don't go to college and expect to read the curriculum really quick and understand whatever it is that you're doing at a low level. You see that as a high level, and that's the roadmap of how you graduate from that course or that program. And that's how I kind of see this book, is where you are told, like, hey, these are and I'm doing air quotes, but classes that you're supposed to take. Go take the GPIN, go take the OSCP, go take Security Plus, Pen Test Plus, stuff like that. It's not going to teach you to take the exams, but it's going to tell you what you need to do in order to get to that point. And those exams are where you're going to get that technical experience.
Yeah, because there's lots of books on the topic of pen testing, but these are kind of taking in consideration you've been working in IT for a while, you're technical, you know how to do this stuff. And as well as I do, there's so many resources out there, a lot of different courses that are online through Udemy, other resources, a lot of books. And if you're not experienced, you don't know which one of those resources are going to help. When I started out, I was discovering all this on my own, and I found some good resources, and I've been able to help people that I mentor over the years and people I teach become pen testers, because I'm able to save them time. These are really good learning resources. Use these books, these other courses that are outside of pen testing. This will be helpful too, and that sort of thing. So just be able to vet learning content is a big deal and can save a lot of time.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, think about how much time you spend. Think about how much time, we all spent trying to figure out what it is that we wanted to do, or if it came with pen testing. I mean, Phil, like I think you posted on Twitter, I think it was this year, quote me if I'm wrong, because, 2020 has been kind of like a blur, but you took the OSCP 7 years ago.
Correct.
Yeah. And, back then that was kind of like the North Star, but like, honestly, it was the only star, right, to get like a technical certification for pen testing.
And the resources back then, the blogs, you've got IPSec, you've got TJ Null, you've got a vast array, the Cyber Mentor, John Hammond's, a lot of good resources out there to learn from. But when I was getting started out, as far as resources to help prepare for the OSCP, you had Got Milk, which was a good resource. but that was it. Now you've got a bunch of bloggers and pen testers on that level putting out content.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like the 3 here right now. Kim, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, not really.
Okay, no worries. I realized that Phil and I kind of took the wheel there for a second.
I'll be pushier later on. I'll tell over you.
So the next thing that I love to talk about, we as humans love gossip. We love to hear the bad things about the cool things, and love to hear about people's failures because it makes us feel more human. So this next question kind of feeds into that is, what is the worst part? The worst part that you dread about writing a book, the one where you're like, man, I am glad that I finished writing the book, and rather you go and author another book, you realize you're going to hit that hurdle again. But, it's that thing that you look back and you're like, hindsight, writing the book was amazing, but man, that part, that was not that fun.
I am very different from most of the people who write about computer technical topics. The majority of people who write about computer technology are practitioners as a day job, and writing about it is an extracurricular activity. For me, writing about computer technology related stuff is my day job. So I'm one of the rare people in this industry who is a writer first and a cybersecurity person second. My dad was a novelist. He's not alive anymore, but he pretty much raised me to be a professional writer. It just so happened that I got into computing and IT, so I kind of merged the interest a little bit. But my dad had very strict ideas about what he called wordcraft, because as much as my dad wrote novels and screenplays and stuff, his day job was to teach people writing. He was a writing tutor. He always promised students that if they had talent and they followed his ideas, they could be successfully published authors. So my dad was like very serious about the whole thing, and ever since I was a little kid, he taught me perhaps somewhat toxic ideas, like you're not allowed to have writer's block.
Oh.
My dad was adamant about that. You are not allowed to have writer's block.
Almost like a sign of weakness.
Exactly. So if you're looking at like that blank page in your word processor and you can't fill it with words, that is a character flaw on your behalf. So perhaps it's not the best attitude that he taught me, but I have, when I write, I have like a, you've been through the Army.
The military. I was in the Navy, but yeah.
The Navy, my apologies. But it's the same military discipline of, it doesn't matter what you feel about running through that field with 50 pounds worth of stuff over your back. You do it, don't ask questions, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So that's how I feel about writing. Because my dad kind of taught me that military discipline with it. So you're not allowed to have writer's block. So my experiences with writing are very different from the majority of people who write about computer technology for a living. Like even people like Bruce Schneier, like Kevin Mitnick, like to them, writing is just a means of them sharing their ideas. Mm-hmm. Whereas I'm a writer and cybersecurity is the topic because that's what I got into.
That makes sense. And I can totally understand that. It's interesting because you're saying you're a writer first and a cybersecurity professional second. So I think, Phil, did that help like complement you? Because I feel like you're, that other side of that coin.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's why I was having such a hard time filling things out, because my writing style is really short and to the point. I don't add a lot of fluff to it, or maybe not fluff, but just don't add enough. I just shorten to the point. So having Kim to come along and be able to add valuable content and fill out the book was great. But yeah, for me, it's just pretty short. It's hard for me I just don't write really long articles and stuff like that. So it's typically kind of short, more instructions on how to do something, because I've wrote some articles for like the Ethical Hacker Network, and the articles there weren't very long. It was just kind of detailed on how to do certain types of things, but not a lot of great extra detail into it, let's say.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that, man. I mean, especially all three of us, I'm sure we've seen pen test reports where we're like, man, this is like reading like a published book. And then there's other ones where we're like, did my 5-year-old write this? What happened?
Yeah.
and it's that dynamic of writing styles between pen testers.
Before I started really specializing in security, like about a decade ago, I just had like a CompTIA Plus and a Network Plus, and I was a remote support technician. So you're constantly writing tickets and having to describe the exact technical problem that customer had, so that the other technicians, if they look at it, they know what's going on. And I was always told that I was the absolute best at writing informative, detailed tickets that other people could understand. Some people had some technical skills that I didn't have, like understanding CPU architectures and stuff like that. But I was the one who could communicate things properly.
So did you become like the official ticket writer?
We all had to write tickets. So if I had a coworker who was brilliant at his job but shitty at writing tickets, I'd have to just like walk up to his cubicle and ask him questions. What's going on with this?
That's important to have good tickets, because I remember my third sysadmin job was like my second year as a sysadmin, and there had someone at the company there that wrote help desk tickets, and I don't know what they were thinking, because their writing wasn't clear. I don't know if they came to work under the influence, but it was hard to make heads or tails over their tickets. The help desk tickets that open up.
Oh, you gotta love those, and it's even better when that never matures, and then you see things like that in pen test reports where you're like, well, I don't even understand like where this host that you're referencing is, or I don't understand like any of this verbiage that you're using. Yeah, and I think that's something interesting that, I'm not trying to divert from the topic, but I think it's going to be interesting how the field progresses, and I wouldn't be surprised if consulting companies, or even just the pen testing community in general starts applying like to help buffer that writing. I guess I don't want to call it. I'm actually confused with the word that I'm trying to come up with, but the lack of the ability of writing, because a lot of pen testers aren't great writers. They're amazing hackers, but we might not be good writers. Is using, having someone on staff who's actually like a technical writer for the pen test team. And I wouldn't be surprised if like they start coming after, people like us who have authored books.
I can write the tickets, but the one thing I really struggle with when it comes to PC hardware is clamping on that CPU fan. I could never do it. I'd have so I'd always have to like ask someone, hey, can you? And the Intel ones were the worst. Mm-hmm. To this day, if I open up my desktop tower, that's the one thing I refuse to do, is to clamp a fan on. So I'll write the tickets. I'll snap the RAM into the slot. That's easy.
I love it. So something that's, and I'd love to hear your take on it. And like for me, for becoming an author, when I announced like that my book had finally gone on pre-sale, and it went on pre-sale I think it went on pre-sale the same week as y'all's book did, but the two of yours book came out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
It really depends on which format you're talking about.
Oh,
the
yes.
ebook came out before the paperback book. So
Yeah.
Gotcha. But like something that I noticed is when I started putting out like that I had a book and everything coming out, and especially geared towards a very like with the two of yours book, there's not really a book that labels out like this is how you become a pen tester. Here's a roadmap for you and lay it out. And I wrote a book about AWS pen testing, which there's only I think one or two books. I think it's one. I think there's only one out there about it, and putting it out there made my social media blow up. I started getting hit up for talks on AWS pen testing. I'm actually doing one next week at the Wild Wild Hackin' Fest, where they're doing a cloud pen testing seminar. So what I'm getting at is that like becoming an author has opened up a lot of new doors for me, just because, you can be an author or you can be a blogger or I'm sorry, without being an author, you can be a blogger, you can write content and things like that. But when you become an author, that's like it's a badge of honor. And for me, that's done a lot. Like my social media has blown up. I've been given opportunities to do talks, do training seminars, things like that, based around AWS pen testing. Phil, I know like, man, that you've already like established yourself as this individual who's leading the masses and helping out and cultivating this pen testing, roadmap culture. However, for the both of you, has this book, has the Pentester Blueprint, what doors has that opened up for you since, it got leaked that it was coming out to the inception of it actually becoming, a book and getting on the shelves? What has that helped out with you professionally and personally?
I'd have to say it's been helpful, but since I was already doing a lot of conference talks and workshops and that sort of thing, and really heavily involved in the community, I guess it's kind of helped me connect with people outside of the networks I normally a part of. So that's kind of helped that area. I think it's helped kind of, there's a lot saying you're not legitimate if you don't write a book, but some people, it kind of gives you a little bit more of a legitimacy to have a book, to be a published author. So I think that's helped as far as that goes.
This great opportunity that Phil and also Jim Minitel at Wylie gave me has given me the opportunity to work on more books.
Ooh.
I'm gonna continue writing blog content. I've been writing blog content for AT&T this whole time, but I'd really like to transition to doing more books. Phil and we've talked about writing another book together about pen testing. I would love to do that at some point with him, definitely, as soon as he and the publisher are ready. I am going to be writing at least one more title, but solo for Wylie Tech.
Oh,
so
nice.
We're discussing that right now. I'm discussing that right now with the publisher. It's on a different topic. It's more about general security hardening from a business perspective, with a lot of interviews with CISOs and stuff like that. So a little bit different subject matter.
You're going to be talking about your interviews with the CISOs in the book.
I haven't interviewed any CISOs for the book yet,
Mm-hmm.
but they are the people who really know about bridging the gap between talking to business people and what an entity's cybersecurity needs are.
Oh man, that sounds really interesting.
And I'm also, Wylie's not the only publisher I'm having talks with. So this is absolutely great. I'd love to transition where like 50% of my work is working on books.
I love that. That must mean you're getting some nice royalty checks.
I will be. Hopefully. I've been doing some OSINT right now as well, but I don't think the book had anything to do with me getting the OSINT gig.
I mean, and if it did, I mean, more power to it, right? I mean, it's that authoring. I feel like that badge of honor has becoming an author, and I'm not trying to make it sound pretentious, but like writing a book is something that, you know, some people do and some people don't. And especially in our community, I think because it's so heavily technical, when you write a book, you're almost seen as like, you know, this, I guess, this holistic leader that is really built on giving back. Because in this community, and which we all three know, you can make a lot of money just being the technical person, and you can spend your 40-50 hour work week, make your 6-figure salary, and that's it. And then you go make, you know, a few bucks for writing a book that takes you, you know, a year to write. So you know, in this field, I think it's when you become an author, it's a little different, you know, and it kind of puts a little bit of a different spin on your brand. So and with that, because we're, you know, being authors, you want to, big part about it is giving back, right? So has, you know, you two being authors, what is something that you would recommend to anyone trying to write a book about a topic in cyber? Because I think, you know, I've been asked a lot of questions since writing a book. I'm not sure if you have, about like just individuals who are, you know, have 10 or not 10 times, but 3 times the years of experience that I do. And they still are like, I don't know where to start to write a book. Or how do I start? Do I start writing a blog? Do I self-publish? Do I go through a publisher? You know, and things like that. So the long-winded question to finish it up with a concise question is, what would you recommend to any cybersecurity professional, no matter where they're at in their career, how to start writing a book?
I think for me, I've spent the past several years writing blog content for like AT&T and Sophos and Venafi and BlackBerry Silence and whatnot. And those blog posts are like anywhere from like 750 to 2,000 words each. So getting a lot of experience writing like lots of little pieces of writing can definitely hone your skills into writing a 200 plus page book. It's not easy to get those tech company blog content gigs, like how I got a lot of my experience. So a lot of great people in our industry who have a lot of really great insight, they start a blog on WordPress, or they post their writing to Medium and stuff like that. That is really a good way to just get your writing out there and to get a lot of practice doing it. And if you can get like a couple of years experience writing little bits and pieces here and there, that can definitely help you write something that's a much bigger project further down the road. Plus, publishers are more likely to publish your book if they see that you've done other writing, just like the advice they used to give rock bands. Like, you don't just start a rock band and expect a record label's going to sign you. You play some gigs and you develop a fan base.
Well, yeah, I like that. Don't start a rock band and expect, or don't start a rock band with the expectations of being able to be a rock star. I think another good analogy for that is, don't get Security Plus and, you know, I don't know. I see this a lot in the field where you see people get Security Plus and like a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity, and then all of a sudden, but no experience in tech whatsoever, and then all of a sudden they expect this cybersecurity career to just jump at them. So I mean, and that's separate from this talk, but yeah, I love that you're saying, yeah, don't start a rock band and expect to be a rock star.
That's the analogy that comes to my mind, because like my life is like, I'm not really a musician, but my life is filled with musicians. Like my boyfriend is a rock musician, so it's like the first thing I think.
I love it. I love it. What about you, Phil? Like, what would you recommend, you know, to anyone who wants to write a book? Like, where should they start? You know, with piggybacking off of Kim, like she mentioned, like, just start writing, right? And there's a thing that they say, like, the more you write, the more you write. And that just means like you're going to get more comfortable with writing. So with that, like, after you've established your comfort with writing, what are some things that you would recommend to aspiring cybersecurity authors, such as like, should they self-publish or should they go through a publisher? If they do want to go through a publisher, what's that process look like?
Yeah, just to add a little more my opinion on the starting out piece, the blogs and articles, because the good thing is with the blogs, you can write your own stuff. And then if you get good at it, like Kim, then you can get someone to pay you to write blogs and articles. I've done several articles myself and I didn't get paid for those, but that's a good way to start out. But if you're going to write, you can do self-publish. But I think people outside of our industry, I think it's probably not taken as seriously as if you're published. In our industry is pretty acceptable with self-published content, because there's a lot of books out there have done pretty well that are self-published and they're good books. And I can kind of see the authors' reasons behind that, because they seem to be able to make more money. You know, they don't have the distribution and stuff that you would through a publisher, but self-publishing, you know, they're able to make more money off of it. But I think if you're wanting to help yourself professionally, I would go through a publisher. It just looks better. But I mean, if you have to do self-publish to start out, that's great. Marcus Carey and Jennifer Jen, when they wrote the Tribe of Hackers books, the first book was self-published. And then Wylie Publishing came along and they got a contract with them and republished the existing books, and they created the new books under Wylie Publishing. So sometimes writing a book and getting it out there and, you know, getting some sales and exposure may be a way to get the book to be, you know, taken up by a publisher or other opportunities.
Yeah, no, 100%. I always recommend, and I've been recommending it to others since my book got leaked out, that when it was going to get actually, you know, published and out onto the digital shelves, was I always recommend to everyone, like, if you want to get into publishing books, I think I always recommend that if they don't have a lot of writing experience, or even if they do have a lot of writing experience, is, you know, look at the publisher route first, because, you know, that's going to help. You're going to use their platform to get your brand out there, get your book out there. But the other thing is too, is that while they do shave a lot off the top, like monetary funds, like you're not going to get as much money back. But they with that, they teach you the way of how to write a book constructively and effectively. And like, I know, like, with writing the book over the past year, I wouldn't have been able to do that self-publish. Definitely would have met my deadlines. Definitely would not have like fact-checked myself as much as the publisher did. You know, and they provide that service for you, and it really teaches you the rise and grind of, like, how to write a book. So, like, I always recommend to everyone, like, go find a publisher first, get your feet wet, understand the industry, and then if you want to self-publish, go self-publish.
And there's some of them that'll reach out to you to write books, because I've actually had Packet reach out to me several times to write stuff related to Metasploit, Burp Suite, and they even talked to me about doing, like, a video training series at one point, but it just didn't. The projects they wanted me for just didn't really. I mean, I don't know. It really wasn't my vision. So.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear that. I've only been hit up by them once, and it was they asked me to write about AWS pen testing, and I was like, I saw that it has, like, a way to give back, and then also as a way to, like, hey, there is literally nothing, like, in a formal context about this subject, except for literally one book that's written by an individual that's in the same area as me, and I was like, this is a no-brainer. Like, gotta do it. So yeah, no, that's great. So you know, and to finish it off, is becoming a pen tester is a hot topic, right? Everybody wants to be a pen tester. I think a lot of it has to do because it's, you know, it's sometimes characterized as, like, the sexy side of security. Mr. Robot, the series over the past few years, has really shined a light on, like, what pen testing is. You know, there's so much stuff out there now where you can do pen testing, such as, like, Hack the Box, Try Hack Me. VulnHub is still, you know, going real strong. So, you know, being a pen tester is really there's so many resources. But, you know, from two industry experts who have written a book about how to become a pen tester, and you've literally given, like, the pen tester Bible on how to do it. Are there any other, like, additional resources that maybe you didn't reference in the book, or you did reference in the book, that you would really like to illustrate as, like, key points for those listening that are wanting to get into pen testing? and how they, go about doing that?
I would recommend, I think we recommended some of her books in our book.
Mm-hmm.
Georgina Wildman's books are some of the best about pen testing in general, that feature more advanced information than what our book does, because our book is intended to be a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
So check her out, definitely.
Yeah, I actually used Georgia's book for the first year I taught for my pen testing classes before the Pen Test Plus came out. And so I ended up the next year went to the Pen Test Plus content to give students a certification to prepare for. But one of the things I would say that's kind of a tip I give people is some people get too impatient. They want to jump right into pen testing and not learn the networking and operating systems. But one of the ways I think you can kind of compromise and do it both at the same time is as you're learning Windows or Linux, you're learning the operating system, you're learning how to secure it at the same time, practice exploiting it. Go out there and see how, these things can be exploited as you go along. So I think you'll get a better understanding of hacking it as you're doing that in parallel. You're learning how to use Linux or Windows, you're learning how to secure it, and then you're seeing how those different configurations can be exploited. So I think that's a way to kind of speed up your learning, as well as maybe cement a little more of those ideas. Because once you go through and learn Windows and Linux, and you go back, then you're going to have to review some of the security things or some of the topics before you start learning to hack that particular OS. So I think that's a good.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's awesome. And I think, not to sell my idea too, but a good way too that I've told my students, or just anyone who's come to me, is they're like, well, I want to learn all this stuff, but I don't have the funds to pay for all of it. And I say, you know what you should do? Go start up a pen test playground, set up one in AWS for little to no money. You can literally hack OSs and things like that from an iPad, and go learn everything that you need to learn. Because I find that as like one of the common denominators if for people trying to get in, is they're like, I just don't have money to accumulate all these resources in the time frame that I want. And the three of us understand, like, that stuff takes years to sometimes to accumulate. Even on a tech salary, you still gotta, like, it's just stuff that builds up in your basement, and you're like, oh yeah, I got all these computers with this operating system and this operating system.
Definitely reading books shouldn't be your only education. Like as you know, because you read the book, there's a whole chapter on building your pen testing lab.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the software is free, like Crawley, and Crawley has hundreds of applications pre-installed in it, and scripts and whatnot. There's lots of documentation on Crawley and all the various applications that are included in it. There's virtualization software that's free. I know that there's a free version of VMware, which might have some limited features, but I like using Oracle VirtualBox.
Oh yeah,
because I think it's open source. At least the version I use is open source, and it probably has more features than like a free VMware client. I think if you're going to use a VMware client, you should get a paid version.
Or just use a free version of VirtualBox, and it'll do the same.
Exactly.
In my years of pen testing and setting up labs, I have used VMware maybe twice, and that was because I got a paid license through being an adjunct teacher.
If you're not going to spend any money, use Oracle VirtualBox. If you have the money to buy a virtualization client, then look at what VMware has.
Yeah.
If you have to connect USB devices to a VM, then VMware is definitely the way to go. That's one of the things I started using. I went through a SANS ICS pen testing course back in March, and using VMware Fusion on my Mac, I was able to plug in any of the USB devices, and it gives you the option to connect it directly to that VM, which it works a little more seamlessly there. But VirtualBox works pretty good for other stuff. That's usually what I have my students to use, and in workshops I've taught, I use VirtualBox. But if you're going to connect any USB devices, then VMware is the way to go.
Awesome. So that wraps it up with really with all the questions we had for today. So like, following out here from, individuals picking up your book, the Pentester Blueprint, I'm sure there's references for you in the book of like where people can find you and all that good stuff. But, for the listeners, where can they find you on the internet?
This is a problem with interviewing two people.
I'm surprised that's not the question that we're all like, well, you can actually find me at yada, yada, yada.
I am at Kim, so KIM _Crawley, CRAWLEY, and I basically live on Twitter. So literally, if I'm not like having a shower or sleeping, I will respond to anything on Twitter like right away. I do have a LinkedIn profile, but I consider LinkedIn to be a necessary evil more than anything.
Okay.
Quite honestly, I hate LinkedIn.
Understandable.
And that is my only social media.
Well, that's good. Only spreading yourself not too thin, just to a couple different ones. I like it. What about you, Phil?
So you can find me. I'm pretty active on Twitter, and it's just Philip Wylie is my handle, and then I'm on LinkedIn too.
Awesome. And then for anyone who's in the Texas area, you said you were a professor or an adjunct professor. If someone wanted to be more interested in taking a class with you, where is it that you teach, and what classes?
Dallas College. I teach ethical hacking, which is I use the Pentest Plus curriculum for that. But students also conduct a pen test in the class, so they get to perform a pen test and write a report. Also teach web app pen testing, and that's at Dallas College, and it's online, so it's available to anyone. So you don't have to be in the Dallas area. I've had people internationally and other areas of the country take my class.
Oh, awesome! Oh yeah, because of COVID and everything. And then is that, and maybe I missed it, is it gonna, once we get to all be normal people again and see each other face to face, are you still going to be doing like the virtual online kind of hybrid things that we're doing now as professors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And one of the things, luckily for me, I started streaming my class spring semester last year. So I'd started streaming, and then my Pwn School meetups, I started streaming them last year. So when COVID hit, it really wasn't that much of a switch for me. I was already doing that. Now I was just streaming from home instead of having to go somewhere to stream. Nice.
Awesome. Well, that wraps it up for today, guys. I really, really appreciate you guys taking the time and everything. For those of you guys listening, if you want to pick up Kim and Phil's book, it's the Pentester Blueprint. It's available at Amazon.com. And is it available at Wylie.com or Wylie Publishing? Okay.
Yes, it's available through Wylie Publishing and most major publishers.
Awesome.
Retailers.
Retailers, yeah.
All right.
Thanks again to my special guest this week, Kim Crawley and Philip Wylie, for taking the time to let us interview them for their book, The Pentester Blueprint. As they said, you can pick it up at all major online publishers, as well as Amazon.com. If you'd like to find out more about Kim Crawley or Phil Wylie, please feel free to reach out to them at LinkedIn and Twitter. And thanks again for tuning in to this week's episode of All Sets of Security Interviews. If you would like to be on the show, please visit our website at offsecinterviews.com and then go to the Submit to Be on the Show tab and fill out the form.